So with the most recent Nintendo Direct, there is a game that we definitely need to focus on a little bit before we talk about some other things, and that is Super Mario RPG. This is the near 30-year-old first RPG in the Mario series that actually spawned so many of the great Mario RPG games that you guys know and love, from the Mario and Luigi series to the Paper Mario series as well. Heck, I even think it had somewhat of an effect on the Mario plus Rabbids series too. So that whole RPG feel for games out there. Now, for those who haven't played Super Mario RPG, this is by far one of the best RPGs on the Super Nintendo, hands down. The game was an absolute delight to play back in the day, with its multiple spoofs and really interesting characters and surprisingly emotional story as well. And it's got varied gameplay too. It's not just combat. There are platforming and puzzle elements. There are basically exploration in the game too. There are side quests. There are special bosses, secret hidden areas. The game is very dynamic with many different things. So that's why I think that Super Mario RPG is one of the most important games for the Nintendo Switch and for the Mario RPG series going forward. But before we get into any more of that, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to the video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. And check out our daily live streams right here on PlayerEssence PE Live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to have more of you guys show up to those live streams. We also have podcasts and all sorts of cool stuff pretty much happening daily on the channel. Now let's go ahead and jump right back into this, because Super Mario RPG is incredible. I've beaten the game so many times, and if you have not seen my reaction, I'll keep on saying this anytime that I talk about Super Mario RPG, go check out my reaction. I absolutely popped off because it really is that good of a game. Now, we didn't have Metacritic back in the day like that. Basically, it was just word of mouth and Nintendo Power and different types of magazines that were just first starting to get going there in the mid to late 90s. But if this game had a Metacritic rating or something like that back then, it'd probably be like a 90 plus Metacritic must play type of game. That's how good it is. That's how charming it was. And that's how interesting the graphics were at the time. Now, obviously, in today's day, you're looking at the graphics now and it's like, okay, nothing too crazy. But for those who played the game and what they did with that Super FX chip or whatever they were using, it was very impressive. It was very good. And when I first saw the new redone graphics, it looks like they're trying to capture that essence, that feel of what Super Mario RPG was with the art style and translating it to what the Switch can do, or the graphics now in today. And I think that they've done a phenomenal job capturing the essence of Super Mario RPG, because you don't want it to look too completely like different from what we got before, because there's certain little quirks within the story and also within the gameplay that I think fit that type of art style, and I don't want to ruin it for those who haven't played it, because man, I've came across a lot of people who haven't played this game. But I think that once you play the game and you see the humor and you see the other elements, not just the combat, but some of the stuff that they showed in the trailer, but they didn't show everything. There's a lot of different styles and elements to this game. There's a lot of variety within the gameplay. It's not just turn-based combat. There's stuff in the open-ended areas that you're going to love that are absolutely just charming, especially with the characters. I mean, you saw one little bit with Yoshi in there too. So I think that with this game, you kind of had to retain that same feel, and they did a great job with it, in addition to upgrading and adding more, because there are some scenes in that trailer that didn't happen in the original. So it looks like this game is going to add content to it, because the original game isn't super long. It's probably about maybe 20 to 30 hours, depending on what you do, maxing out, doing certain side quests or certain hidden bosses and things like that. So the game isn't a super long game, but it's one of those games that, since it's not super long, you can beat it multiple times. And that's what I did. I beat the game so many times. I pretty much 100%ed this game, at least from what I can remember off the top of my head, at least 3 or 4 times. And then I randomly played it just throughout multiple years after it came out, because remember, this game is going on 30 years old at this point. But I did want to go over a couple other things with Super Mario RPG with the game. It is eligible for the Switch voucher program. So the Switch game voucher, you can buy these vouchers online on the eShop, and essentially you can get a game for $50 instead of the $60 that the game is. Now, and I do also want to go over some of the information that Nintendo officially says about this game. There isn't everything yet, but the game is coming out on November 17th, 2023, and here's what they have to say on the official page for it. Mario, Bowser, and Peach partner up to repair the wish-granting Star Road in this approachable role-playing adventure. And I like how they said approachable, because that's essentially what it was. The barrier to entry wasn't really that high, but once you kind of got in and started playing, there were some little things that definitely was more hardcore RPG for the players out there. But for those who are intimidated by RPGs, this is a game that you can pick up and play and kind of understand fairly simply. Next up, they say this: team up with the Oddball group of heroes to save Star Road and stop the troublemaking Smithy gang. The colorful RPG has updated graphics and cinematics that even add more charm to the unexpected alliance between Mario, Bowser, Peach, and original characters Mallow and Geno. Enter or revisit this world of eccentric allies and offbeat enemies in an RPG for everyone. Jump through a colorful world and give attacks some extra oomph in battle. What they're talking about there is that anytime that you do an attack, you can press the A button at the right timing to get an extra damage or like an extra jump, or even defense for yourself. If you press the A button at the right time, you can actually defend attack better and take less damage too. Explore the vibrant environments with your party and jump towards your next goal. Run into monsters to enter turn-based battles with your party of 3. Press the button at the right time for a satisfying dose of extra damage or helpful guards. So really cool there. Now, the game is single player. It's not going to have any multiplayer or anything like that. It supports all the different play modes: TV, tabletop, and handheld. And they're calling it a role-playing adventure game in terms of the genres. Nintendo is publishing it. We don't know who the main developer is, but I'm guessing that Square Enix developed the game, or Nintendo and Square Enix collaborated to develop this game, because you'd have to for this scale of remake. ESRB is E for everyone, and the game is 8 gigabytes and supports pretty much all the different languages. Plus, there will be cloud saves confirmed. So, not bad at all. 8 gigabyte cartridge, they got it down in there. The game is going to be a lot of fun. Seriously, like, this surprised me, it shocked me, and I'm super happy that Super Mario RPG is coming back, because it's the game, or it's a franchise, like when it comes to the Mario RPG series, that is just legendary. And this is where it all started. Giving players an opportunity to play this type of game, man, is just so awesome in this type of way. Not having like a virtual console release or the Super Nintendo Classic. I mean, it's been re-released somewhat, but not really, not in this type of capacity. So very happy about all of this. So what are your thoughts on Super Mario RPG? Let me know in the comment section. But speaking of bringing back a classic and making it look really good, I gotta talk more about this game. Star Ocean, the second story R. The developers talk about the difficulty, the battle adjustments, and more. This is not just a simple HD, 2D, 3D-ified type of re-release or remaster. This is a full and remake. It's more than just a typical remake of the game. They are really adjusting things and going in with this. I'm really impressed. This is probably the most impressive looking Star Ocean game that I've like ever seen, like in the modern era. I am thoroughly impressed with this remake, or just this game. Star Ocean to me has always been one of those games that's always like the 5th or 6th best RPG series, or maybe even lower down the pole at this point with the rise of Nippon Ichi Software and Falcom. But man, Star Ocean, this game, Star Ocean, the second story R, feels to me like a real rebirth of the franchise. And I was talking to my friend Stealth on our PlayerEssence Cross Nintendo podcast every single Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you guys check that out. Replay is up for you with episode number 2. But I was talking with Stealth, and he stated that the second game is pretty much the best game. A lot of fans feel that it's the best game in the series. Now, I haven't beat the second game. I remember playing it back in the day, but I never really got a chance to really get into it. So now seeing it in this type of way definitely gets me really excited. Now, in a recent Famitsu interview, one of the producers of the game, Mr. Kaito, talked about what Star Ocean, the second story R, is about, and what they did to really bring this back to the new age. Now, this remake came about due to the recent growth and interest for the series. So we're talking about Star Ocean: The First Departure and also Star Ocean 6 as well. Now, the entry is one of the most popular with fans, and Square Enix received many remake requests. The logo for the game was designed to closely resemble that of the original PlayStation game, because this is a PS1 game. Now, the remake will include the same character voices from Star Ocean's second evolution on the PSP. Events in the remake will be fully voiced. The difference between Star Ocean Second Story R and HD 2D titles is that the world of the remake is recreated in 3D graphics rather than three-dimensional pixel art, which I did have some people saying, hey, it looks kind of weird compared to like Octopath and stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's supposed to, because it's not the exact same thing in what they're doing with the rendering and the graphics. It's actually 3D game, which the original PS1 game, if you look at that, was very much like this, what you're seeing, but obviously nowhere near as pretty looking. Now, the game's difficulty has been completely reworked from scratch, particularly battles, and that excites me as well. This was done to adjust the tempo, hit feedback, skill effects, rage, and frame data for moves. The goal is to make this a stress-free and easy game for players to enjoy. Time freezing during techniques has been lowered in favor of speedier gameplay rhythm. Characters outside the active party can now join in combat as assist type characters. So I really like how they're doing this, to where they're making the combat a little bit more user friendly. Some of these PS1 games can get kind of crusty with their combat. We saw that with Chrono Cross a bit when it comes down to not modernized. So I think that they really learned from the Chrono Cross experiment and said, okay, if you're going to bring a game back, you can't just bring it back wholesale and say, okay, here you go. You have to make tweaks and adjustments to really fit the tempo and time in terms of what people want to do in today's day with a lot of these games. So I really like the fact that they didn't just bring it over wholesale, kind of like the first remake of Star Ocean First Departure R. That's just kind of brought back, and it was okay, but there were some things off here and there, especially in modern sensibilities. Now, some mid-game bosses have been strengthened, so that's good. Definitely want to make sure that you balance it right. New side quests that offer better equipment and items have been included. 3 difficulty levels included in Second Story R are the same as in the original game, so with the adjustment in the combat and making things a little bit easier to pick up and play, for me, I definitely want to go on the hard difficulty instead of the normal, because I think it might be a bit too easy for me. But there's a lot of people out there that just want to enjoy the story and some really fast-paced, cool combat. Then you have the normal and you have the easy modes for you. Now, players can freely switch between all 3 difficulties during the game, so no problem there whatsoever. This is a high-end remake, and I really love what they're doing here. This is exactly what I want to see from PS1 RPGs. If they're going to remake a game like Xenogears, I'd love to see them kind of redo and fix a lot of the issues that that game has and bring that back. And I think that if games like this do well, then we could see other PS1 RPGs come back. But this isn't something that's just like, okay, let's just throw it out there. It's easy. It's a cheap remake. No, this is definitely a lot of effort and time put into this one. They're adding in a lot. So I'm excited. I'm going to pick it up 100%, probably buy both copies when it comes to Switch and the PlayStation 5 version of the game. It's coming out November 2nd, and this was probably like my surprise, or more like this was like my surprise hit of the show. Like Super Mario RPG was great. Obviously Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which we'll talk about in a whole separate video, that was awesome too, and those were great and surprises. But I was surprised how much interested I am in this game, considering it's Star Ocean overall. So very hyped about this. But speaking about something else that's pretty hype, let's talk about these eShop charts. Let's talk about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo had to give a full bow talking about how many players are playing this game and enjoying it, because they know all that money is being stuffed into their bank account with players just buying The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's still the top game on Amazon here in the US and in many different countries. And guess what? It's the top game on the eShop as well, where the eShop is continuing to rack up massive sales because of those game vouchers, and just because of people wanting to be able to just access big, long RPGs, big, huge adventure games at any point and not have to worry about switching the cartridges or anything, or even just double dipping on the game. I know I double dipped. I bought the game physical and I bought the game digital as well. So it's very exciting just to see Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom still take up this, because Zelda has had a long trek to be this popular. It's always been a big franchise for Nintendo, but it's never been as popular as it is now. And I'm expecting Nintendo to announce a crazy number for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, this could be 20 million units or very close to it, because this game just continues to sell pretty much worldwide. Even in the UK, it went down to number 2, then reclaimed the top charts over Diablo in the most recent ones. So even in areas and locations that Nintendo isn't the strongest, Tears of the Kingdom has continued to do really well. We're starting to see on Amazon, it's still racking up thousands upon thousands of sales across the board and in many different countries. So Tears of the Kingdom is here to stay. I think that this game is going to be a super evergreen game, and when it's all said and done, we can see this game sell 40 million copies plus if you extend it out to the Nintendo Switch 2, because there's no way Nintendo's not going to say, hey, check out this Switch 2 enhanced or next Switch enhanced version of Tears of the Kingdom, to where you can get all the DLC or you can get this or that and play it in better quality. So they're going to keep this game selling over and over. The cartridges are going to be out there. People are going to keep buying it, just like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was a long-term seller pretty much the whole generation. Even still to this point, it's still in the top sales, like when it comes to the Famitsu, which we didn't even get into, where once again The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was the #1 game and pretty much carrying the Switch all the way to this point when it comes to this year in 2023. So Tears of the Kingdom is just doing incredible. People are playing the heck out of it, and it's continuing to sell incredibly well. So there was some concerns that some people had with Tears of the Kingdom potentially not doing as well as Breath of the Wild, but I think that this kind of just shows that nah, it's going to do way better than Breath of the Wild in the long run. But we'll see what Nintendo announces when it comes to their latest numbers in the next financial report that's coming up soon here. So what do you guys think about everything that we discussed when it comes to all the Nintendo Switch RPG news? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, check out our latest videos right here, and we will see you for the next one. Peace.